Luke's Gospel, chapter 14. One Sabbath, Jesus went to eat a meal at the home of one of the leading Pharisees, and people were watching Jesus closely. A man whose legs and arms were swollen came to Jesus, and Jesus asked the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, "Does our law allow healing on the Sabbath or not?" But they wouldn't say anything. Jesus took the man, healed him, and sent him away. And then he said to them, "If any one of you had a son or an ox that happened to fall into a well on the Sabbath, wouldn't you pull them out at once on the Sabbath itself?" But they were not able to answer him about this. Jesus noticed how some of the guests were choosing the best places. So he told them this parable. When someone invites you to a wedding feast, don't sit down in the best place. It could happen that someone more important than you has been invited, and your host, who invited you both, would have to then come and say to you, "Let him have this place," and then you would be embarrassed. You'd have to sit in the lowest place. Instead, when you are invited, go and sit in the lowest place so that your host will come to you and say, "Oh, come up, my friend, to a better place." This will bring you honour in the presence of all the other guests. For all those who make themselves great will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be made great. Then Jesus said to his host, "When you give a lunch or a dinner, don't invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or your rich neighbours, because they will invite you back, and in this way you'll be paid for what you did. When you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed because they are not able to pay you back. God will repay you on the day the good people rise from death." When one of the men sitting at the table heard this, he said to Jesus, "How happy are those who will sit down at the feast in the kingdom of God?" And Jesus said to him, "There was once a man who was giving a great feast, to which he invited many people. When it was time for the feast, he sent his servants to tell the guests, 'Come, everything is ready.' But they all began, one after another, to make excuses. The first one told the servant, I've bought a field. I must go and look at it. Please accept my apologies." Another said, "I bought 5 pairs of oxen, and I'm out on my way to try them. Please accept my apologies." Another one said, "I've just got married, and for that reason I can't come." The servant went back and told all this to his master. The master was furious and said to the servant, "Hurry out into the streets and the alleys of the town. Bring back the poor, the crippled, the blind and the lame." And soon the servant said, "Your order has been carried out, sir, but there's still room for more." So the master said, "Go out into the country roads and the lanes and make the people come in, so that my house will be full. I tell you all that none of those who were invited will taste my dinner." Once, when large crowds of people were going along with Jesus, he turned and said to them, "Those who come to me cannot be my disciples unless they love me more than they love father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and themselves as well. Those who do not carry their own cross and come after me cannot be my disciples. If one of you is planning to build a tower, you sit down first and work out what it will cost to see if you have enough money to finish the job. If you don't, you'll not be able to finish the tower after laying the foundation, and all that see what happened, they'll laugh at you. This man began to build, but he can't finish the job, they'll say. If a king goes out with 10,000 men to fight another king who comes against him with 20,000 men. He will sit down first and decide if he's strong enough to face that other king. If he isn't, he will send messengers to meet the other king, to ask for terms of peace while he's still a long way off. In the same way, concluded Jesus, none of you will be my disciples unless you give up everything you have. Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, there's no way to make it salty again. It's no good for the soil or for the manure heap. It's thrown away. Listen then, if you have ears.